The national and international news is a few moments away. Let's take a look at what's coming up with Julie Etchingham.
A frantic final push in the final hours before Scotland decides the fate of the Union.
Hope not fear!
Gordon Brown leads the no vote in a rallying cry, urging the country to stand up and be counted. But Alex Salmond insists the Yes campaign is flying high and will claim victory in tomorrow's referendum. We'll have the latest from around Scotland as both sides take their campaigns to the bitter end. I'm in Edinburgh and Alistair Stewart is in London with the rest of the day's events at 6:30.
Now, when it comes to the horrors of the First World War, you'd be forgiven for thinking there wouldn't be much room for humour. But one soldier from Stratford-upon-Avon in Warwickshire was able to show a lighter side of life in the trenches through his cartoons.
Yes, so popular were Bruce Bairnsfather's drawings with the troops and people back home that they ended up being published in a weekly tabloid magazine. Our correspondent Phil Brewster has the story.
For soldiers fighting on the Western Front, life in the trenches was an horrific ordeal. Constantly under threat of being shelled, shot at or even gassed. To help them cope with the fear, many resorted to gallows humour. One man who captured this spirit was Captain Bruce Bairnsfather. While serving with the 1st Battalion Royal Warwickshire Regiment in Belgium, he began drawing cartoons of his experiences. Mark Warby spent 35 years researching Bairnsfather's life and says his drawings were an instant hit with the troops.
These just got passed around the men at the front. You know, people began to see that he was drawing these cartoons, and fellow soldiers would say, "Can we have 2 or 3 for our dugout?"
Over the next few months, Bairnsfather turned out dozens more cartoons, depicting every aspect of trench life. This one shows a group of soldiers receiving news they're about to go over the top. Later, the same group are drawn, celebrating their safe return. Others captured the conditions soldiers had to live and fight in.
There's a soldier sat on a crate writing a letter home, you know, "Dear, at present we are staying at a farm." As he sits and writes this, the farm is basically a shell, there's no roof, it's bombed to bits.
But it was Bairnsfather's ability to turn the tragedy of war into comedy that really stood out, as shown in this drawing of an old soldier and a new recruit.
The young chap next to him is looking through the hole and saying, "Who made that hole?" And sort of sarcastically, the older soldier is saying, "Mice."
Bairnsfather also poked fun at the enemy, often depicting the Germans in a less than flattering light. But nor were the British officer class exempt from ridicule.
The officer has got this shiny new sword, he's going to war, and he's got this sword that he's going to be using in the, you know, cavalry, whatever, and he's going to be charging with this and creating havoc. And then at the end of it, the typical reality is that he ends up using it as a toasting fork.
Someone who featured strongly in Bairnsfather's cartoons was Old Bill, a fictional elderly pipe-smoking British Tommy with a walrus moustache, which many British soldiers felt they could relate to.
If his sergeant came along and said there were some planks needed moving, or you know, something like that, sandbags, whatever, he'd be a bit reluctant to come along and do that. But if somebody came along and said there's a rum ration that needs dealing with, he'd be first in line to deal with that.
Like many of his generation, Bairnsfather felt a patriotic duty to fight for his country, but his drawings never shied away from the harsh realities of war. Mark Warby says it was this that cemented Bairnsfather's appeal with his fellow soldiers.
He wasn't in a studio somewhere in London just drawing sketches from photographs or pictures. He'd been there and he understood it himself, so they felt he captured perfectly what life was like at the front.
Eventually, Bairnsfather's drawings captured the attention of the public back home, and in 1916 a collection of his cartoons were published in the weekly Bystander magazine. Such was the demand for his work that 1 million copies of the magazine were printed. Despite being injured at the Second Battle of Ypres, Bairnsfather survived the war before dying in 1959, aged 72. But almost 100 years after he first began doodling, fans believe his ability to find humour in the darkest of times would still resonate with soldiers and the public today.
Bairnsfather appealed to the public in general, to the common man, the common soldier, and I think that's where his legacy has stood the test of time.
Incredible, isn't it? And I guess a coping mechanism, isn't it, really?
Yeah, because he was right
Humour.
in the thick of it, wasn't it? What surprised me, perhaps, compared to cartoons that you see now, how much detail was in there, shading, the light, real art, really fantastic stuff.
Considering he was doing that in the trenches.
Yeah. Well done him 100 years ago. Now, we were talking earlier about how warm it's been.
Yes.
We were both roasting.
Especially last night and again today.
Windows open. It's almost October, isn't it? Let's find out what's coming up with the rest of the weather show. Here's Lucy Kite.
Hello again. Well, a gorgeous scene for you tonight, taken at Baggeridge Park. Thank you very much to Janice Johnson for that. Some lovely blue sky there, and a little bit of blue sky to come as we head through the next couple of days, but not before we've seen more in the way of low cloud, mist and fog patches. The low cloud will roll in as soon as the sun sets as we move through this evening. It's moving in from the east coast, so quite a gloomy night to come. Very mild though, with temperatures only dipping to 13 or 14 degrees Celsius. This time last year, we were looking at highs of 15 or 16 degrees Celsius by day, so a very mild night to come tonight. But poor visibility on the roads first thing tomorrow morning until those mist and fog patches lift and break and retreat back to the east coast. And come the afternoon, we should all see some decent breaks in the clouds and some sunny spells bursting through that cloud. Temperatures reaching 23, maybe even a 24 degrees Celsius. That's way above the seasonal average of 17 or 18 degrees Celsius. So a warm, muggy, humid day to come tomorrow. And then things gradually change as we move into the weekend. As high pressure builds once again, we are going to see fresher air moving in from the north. Before that, though, some thunderstorms possible on Friday. A bit of hail, a bit of thunder mixed in with all that rain. We'll keep you posted. Bye for now.
Now, just before we go, let's give you a reminder of tonight's top stories on ITV News Central. The West Midlands has seen the biggest fall in unemployment across the country. That's according to new figures out today. The number of people without a job has fallen by 9,000 in the 3 months to July.
Birmingham's Chamber of Commerce is confident this month's Tory party conference won't be the last the city hosts, despite the withdrawal of council funding.
And researchers at the University of Leicester studying the remains of King Richard III say he died after suffering 11 injuries, including 2 potentially fatal blows to the head and 1 to his pelvis.
There's plenty more on the website, including why September has been a record-breaking month already, weather-wise. As we were saying.
As we've been enjoying, exactly.
That is it from us, yes?
Go on, you do it.
I'm going to be back for late, so I might as well take it through. Yeah, OK, well, I will be back for late, but for us, for now, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.